Howdy folks, thanks for tuning in. It's been a while since I've done an instructional video on here, so I thought I'd jump on here today and do a video on the subject of pick direction in flat picking. And this is something that I started to notice when I was learning, that pick direction made a difference in the sound. When you're really trying to refine the style of a piece of flat picking, I started to notice little things about how pick direction will make a difference. So I would fix little things here and there and kind of tailor them, but I didn't really get the whole picture until later, and actually being a teacher helped me zero in on it even more, because when I had to explain myself, I started to notice more patterns and the actual concept behind it. So I'm going to try to give you the overview of how to look at this in a way that you can apply to everything that you play in a bluegrass style, at least in a flat picking style. And then I'll do a few examples of how it shows up. So to explain this, I'm going to go back to the core of the Bluegrass Groove, as I do in a lot of different examples, and sort of build it up from there. So the idea is, if you're playing a song that's about this fast, the core of the Bluegrass Groove is the bass and the mandolin. So the bass is playing here, and the mandolin is chopping in between. Notice that that's all downstrokes. So the upstrokes fit in between. And I was kind of doing that in a dead strum there, but if you take it down to a single string, that's kind of the universal rule on where your pick should be relative to the timing of the song and relative to the beats of the song. That underlying concept of where the pick should be is going on no matter what you're playing. So in other words, if the phrasing of the song leaves some gaps, or if you do a left hand technique that interrupts your right hand, that idea of where the pick should be is still just going on this universal law. So that will help you figure out how to adjust for things like phrasing or a left-hand technique that interrupt like constant right-hand picking. Because if you're playing a tune, let's say, like Blackberry Blossom has just really consistent alternate picking. I was playing straight through on that. I didn't really have to think about any variables. But if I'm doing something like a slide lick, where I'm getting two notes for one pick stroke, that lick right there, think of that lick against this kind of timing. I play that lick down, 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 up, down. Because when I do this initial attack at the beginning of the slide, I'm playing it on a downstroke. And there's a missing upstroke right there that comes from the note that the left hand gives me. So I skip that and play the next actual note of the lick with a downstroke on the B string. And then I'm going to do the same thing going back down. There's a little pause here too. Kind of a missing upstroke in the pause. And going down, there's a missing upstroke. So I come in on another downstroke. And then when I get to the end, down, up, down. I'm back to consistent alternate picking. So that's how I would adjust for a lick like that. And you can kind of check your work by taking that lick that you're playing with slides and creating a version of it that's all picked out with no slides. And I'm going to put an extra note in that gap too. So when I do that, you can see how a standard uninterrupted alternate picking version of that idea would sound, or more importantly, where your pick would be. And then take those extra notes back out, and you can see where you lose those pick strokes to the left hand technique, the slides. So that's kind of a standard example right there, because you're just losing one pick stroke to a left hand technique. Sometimes you lose more than that. If I take that same lick and make it a little bit more syncopated, so this is my timing. On that one, I wait so long to come back in, I miss an upstroke and a downstroke. So I play it on a down, up, down, up, and then the rest of the lick is the same. So the note that I'm playing at the end of my slide is that upstroke from this consistent alternate picking version. So I feel that one a little bit differently and come in on an upstroke. So that's an example of a left-hand technique that goes a little longer and you have to lose even more than one pick stroke. Now on the other extreme, I'll show you a lick that has a triplet phrasing. It's a left-hand triplet. So for that, you actually keep alternate picking, but you can see how the notes, the extra notes that you're getting from your left hand, fit in between that idea of your regulation pick strokes. So if I'm playing something like that, if I was to play it without the triplet, it'd be down, up, down. So that's this idea with left hand removed, and then I'm just fitting an extra note in there into my alternate picking with my left hand. So that kind of gives you three different situations that you can use as examples of how to adjust for left hand techniques with your right hand. Another good one to get out of the way during this video would be a Grun. Keeping track of your pick strokes can really help with the power of your Grun. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. This is just my style of doing it, but it follows this same idea. And it winds up with you doing two downstrokes at the end. And not only downstrokes, but rest strokes, where when I play the D string, I'm pushing through it and resting on the G string. And then when I play the G, I'm pushing through it and resting on the B just to get a bigger sound. And that happens naturally if you follow these alternate picking rules. So for this one, I go, if I'm playing this longer version of a Grun, I play down, up, down, down. And you can check your work on this one if I play this version, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You can see how that would alternate, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Take the extras back out, down, up, down, down. And that's a game changer right there if you want your Gruns to really explode. Now that trick I've showed you about putting in extra notes to check your work for your pick strokes, that's just something to help you get used to this idea. I'm not necessarily doing that every time I make up a new lick, because if you do it enough and think about it enough and sort of get your ear connected to how this affects your sound and your style, you'll sort of have muscle memory for this stuff. Your ear will hear the phrasing coming up, and your right hand will adjust accordingly. So that's what you're working toward. It's not going to be as tedious as having to think through this concept every single time, as long as you stick with it and try to adopt this mindset pretty consistently. I'll do a few more examples before I get out of here. I like to talk about how this affects kickoffs. If you're doing a kickoff, like let's say you're playing the beginning of a fiddle tune, it happens on a bunch of tunes where you play like a series of notes like this. And I'm doing that in all downstrokes right there, because that'd be my full version. And then you can see that it's simpler than that, and all those notes that are actually there land on the downstrokes. So that's kind of a typical kickoff, you know. But if if you're going to do something like put a little extra note in front of it, like Tony Rice and a lot of others used to do, you'll have an extra upstroke at the beginning. You have to play that extra G note on an up, or you'll be off track going into the rest of it. Here's your regulation pick direction. You'll see when I hit that G, 1, 2, 3. So that makes a big difference when you're kicking off fiddle tunes, or let's say you're doing Tony Rice kickoffs again. That'll help you get the right vibe at the very beginning and stay on track. So I hope you've enjoyed this short lesson, and hope you got something out of those examples and this concept. I think if you take a look at this concept and kind of keep an eye out for it, you'll notice how it makes a difference. You'll notice your favorite players doing this in their own way, and you'll hear how it impacts your own play. And again, I encourage you to sort of connect your ear to this. I guess the whole idea behind this is that downstrokes do sound different from upstrokes. You don't want to be too mechanical about it and try to get them sounding identical or anything like that. You kind of want to lean into the difference between them and sort of milk the power out of those downstrokes and the syncopation out of those upstrokes and let it enhance your style. Now, all that being said, you can also break these rules. You know, these are kind of a general guideline that help you get sort of a bluegrass groove that works on average. But there's always going to be counterexamples and exceptions. But I think it's a good idea to know how this concept works so that when you want to be in it, you can, and when you want to break it creatively, you know what you're doing. So have fun exploring this concept and applying it to your own playing. And please feel free to contact me if you're interested in taking Skype lessons one-on-one. That's really what I'm doing full-time these days. And I can teach you a lot more about this and how to apply it and a bunch of other flat picking concepts. I got a few other videos on the channel that you can check out. But you can contact me on any of my social media. I check my messages and everything. And I'll put my email and all the links and stuff in the description. But thank y'all again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.